Hello, everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Tips. Guys, I have a surprise for y'all today. I am super excited. I met this young lady in a group on Facebook, right? As you can see, I meet a lot of cool people either on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I had to bring her in. She's going to blow your mind. I am super excited. Della, what's up?
Hey, Gilbert, it's so great to be here with you. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Before we jump into all the goodies you're going to share with us, who is Della?
Wow, that's a long, twisted story, right? Lots of twists and turns in that ones. But I started out as a small-time farm girl, carrying water to the fields and baling hay. I even had a goat I had to milk before and after
What?
school at
That's
one point.
awesome.
I got my first pony when I was 3, so all kinds of good things there. My grandparents taught me all about hard work and
Mhm.
making money and taking care of money, and even taught me about interest. So in
Mm.
second grade, when my mom started borrowing money from me, I knew that $10 would turn into $12 when she paid me back because I charged her interest and she paid it.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah. I've been a Girl Scout leader and a room parent and a hospice caregiver more recently to my grandmother who's passed away a few weeks back.
My
I love real
condolences.
estate and taxes, motorcycles and Crown and Coke. And when my youngest daughter was heading into kindergarten all day, I decided to become a CPA. I bought and
Ah,
sold a couple of small businesses, and now I'm on a mission to help create 10,000 female acquisition entrepreneurs because, like I like to say, even a waitress can buy a business.
let's go. Wow.
Yeah. Hell
That's
yeah.
it. I love it. I love it. So I got so many questions for you. Let's go back to,
Higher.
the goat situation.
Yeah, the goats. Okay.
Wait, where was the farm at?
It was in northern Indiana. That's where I'm from, and that's where I'm still based today.
That's amazing. So what other animal you guys had beside goats and chicken?
Like I said, we had the horses, we did have chickens, my least favorite animal. We had pigs off and on. I raised a couple of cattle for 4-H. My grandpa had
Wow.
a lot of Herefords, which are beef cattle, but I raised some Holstein and a brown Swiss, which are milk cattle. We had guineas, which I don't know if anybody knows what they are, but they're kind of like
Um,
wild turkey type birds and they make a buckwheat noise. So we had a
no,
little bit of everything.
that's amazing. I love it. So let's talk about what was when you were growing up on the farm, what was kind of like the biggest lessons you learned that you're still applying today?
One of the lessons I guess I learned, and I don't know if this is exactly a lesson, but my grandpa never doubted what I could do. I mean, I did it
Mm.
all out there with the boys. One of my fondest memories is in seventh grade. So I'm a middle school girl, and I'm not quite sure how this came about, but there was a big field of straw that we had to bring in, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
our field, it was somebody else's. But there was nobody around to do it except for my grandfather and I. And grandpa always drove the tractor. I never saw my dad hardly ever drove the tractor. My uncle never drove the tractor. It was always grandpa. So that, of course, left me to load the whole wagon. And there's this great big hill in the middle of the
Uh-huh.
field. But I did every single bale. I tied them in real tight. If you've ever baled hay, you know what I'm talking about. But I tied them in tight, went up and down that hill, and I loaded the entire field and the whole wagon, and we took it home, and I never lost a bale.
Wow. I love it. I love it. So we're gonna fast forward, right?
Sure.
CPA, bought a couple businesses. What was the first business you bought?
Was my CPA firm.
Ah, that's a
Yeah, I
wait,
bought a
so
tax practice that I was actually working at the time. So there's a
oh,
good tip for you. You could possibly buy the place that you're working at now.
I love it. I love it. So how did that come about? Was it the owner retiring? What was happening? And you said, you know what? I want to buy this.
I've always done everything I've done has been entrepreneurial. I mean, I've done real estate, that's, straight commission. I've spent a lot of time waiting tables, that's all tips. I've been a financial advisor, that's pretty much straight commission. So even though when I wasn't doing an actual entrepreneurial gig, I still was
Yeah.
doing things in an entrepreneurial way. So I just knew I wanted to be a business owner, wanted to do something more. I like to have control of my own destiny. But I was at the CPA firm, and the guy was had a lot of health issues, a little bit older. His
Mhm.
practice was struggling because of those health issues. Fabulous guy, great accountant, but it's hard to keep up with things when you're on dialysis 3 and 4 times a day and when he was in and out of
Yeah.
the hospital. So we actually shared a lot of overhead items with another CPA firm that was in our
Mhm.
same office space. But Ralph, the guy I worked with, was the controlling factor in that because he had been there first. And as his health started to decline and he thought about selling, I thought about buying, but I didn't have a whole lot of experience at that point in
Yeah.
time. But the other gentleman that was in had his practice in there. He didn't want Ralph to sell because he would have sold all of his stuff. He would have lost
Mm,
control of the phone number that we shared, the fax line, if anybody remembers those that we shared. The office space, the reception, all those things we shared, even though there were two really separate businesses. So he approached me at one point and asked me, if he bought Ralph's business, if I would run it for him. And I was like, yes, but not as an employee. I'd love to partner with you. I have no idea how I could possibly make that happen at that point in time. But yeah, I would love to do that with you. And it kind of went from there.
wow. I love it because a lot of people would have been like, huh, I'm just gonna start my own CPA firm. You saw and took an opportunity to own that business. Let's go a little bit further, right? So you had that business. Do you still have it or you sold it?
No, I ran that with my business partner for a while. And after a couple
Mhm.
of years, I bought him out and ran it then and continued to grow it. And then I sold that just about 3 years ago now, 2.5, 3 years ago.
Congrats, congrats.
It's
What
all
was the
about the
secret?
capital events.
Now I love it. So I want to hear more. Like, hold on, I gotta go back. So once you sold it, did you start another or buy another business right away, or what'd you do?
No, so actually, that's when my mission to help create 10,000 other female acquisition entrepreneurs started. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, we also bought, ran, and sold a pizza pub.
Ah,
Yeah, so restaurants, bars have a special place in my heart. I have tons of restaurant experience. And like I said, we
yeah.
bought and ran and sold a place as well. So it was an iconic pizza place in our town. It had been there since the 1960s, I think. It had always been, it's called the Redwood Inn, same pizza
Hmm.
place. Had the same red carpet when we purchased it, had the same, red booths all that time. Fun place, but again, the owner was older and kind of tired at that point in time. It's a tough business to hang out in for a very long
Yeah.
period of time. And so we bought that, tore down a lot of properties around it, made a really great outdoor space, cleaned
Mm.
things up. People would come in after we took over, like, oh my gosh, you added so many new lights in here. And I'm like, no, my mom's a cleaning freak. I was like, no, actually, my mother got on a ladder and she cleaned all of the covers of the lights. And oh my gosh, I can't believe you guys remodeled the men's bathroom already. I'm like, no, my mother spent an entire weekend cleaning, the
Oh
men's
my God.
bathroom. So
I
yeah, that
love
was
it.
fun.
So I got a question for you, right? That's aligned with the mission that you have right now to help 10,000 female entrepreneurs acquire businesses. One of the biggest piece when it comes to acquisition, it's deal sourcing,
Hmm.
right? And you mentioned a few things here about the owners, either health issue or retiring.
Right.
How do you go about deal source? Like, how do you go up finding those type of businesses?
I always send people, whether you want to buy or sell a business, I always send people to their own network first.
Mm,
For these two examples, I ended up buying the place that I worked for. So, I
yeah,
mean, that you can't get more intimate than that. I was there all day, every day, anyhow, pretty much, except I was also waiting tables as well. And with the pizza pub, we kind of took the back door into that one, but it was still within
mhm,
our network. We wanted to own the pizza place, but she wasn't ready to sell at that point in time,
yeah,
but someone else owned the real estate. And so my boyfriend, especially, is a big real estate guy. So we bought the real estate first and became
sure,
her landlord. And then as she became ready to sell, she looked for outside buyers, but no one wanted to buy it without the real estate, which of course
yeah.
we had and we're not willing to give up at that point. So that's kind of how we fell into that. But those both of those were within our network already.
That's amazing. So, let's go into your current movement because what I think what you're doing right now is a movement. Tell us more about it. How did it come about? Why did you decide to take that route?
So I love the deal. We do a lot of real estate as well. I love the deal. It's so exciting how all those pieces fit together.
Mhm.
I love doing taxes as well. I mentioned that in the intro. I do love taxes, but that's all historical. And by the time someone comes to me, whether it's a
Mm,
business owner, an individual, by the time they come to me to prepare their taxes,
yeah.
everything's said and done. I was like, ooh, if I would known about that ahead of time, I might have asked you to do this or done this in a
Mhm.
different way. And, there's still a lot you can do at that point in time, but it's just so much more historical. And I want to be more proactive with people and really help them create wealth going forward. And,
Mhm.
I won't get into all the ways, that women are still at a disadvantage in business and in finance, but we really are.
Mm,
And startups are so hard. Entrepreneurship is really the cure for so many different things.
Yeah.
but everybody immediately thinks of startups, and startups are super hard. They take a long time. They're
Uh-huh.
expensive. You know, if you're talking about VC funding, I think women get like 2% of all VC funding.
Mm.
And so just buying a profitable business is just a no-brainer when you take all those statistics into account.
Now, we think about it though, a lot of people are like, oh my God, buying a business is expensive. How am I going to do that? Where am I going to get the money to buy this? What do you say to that?
That's totally false. It can be true, but I'll
Yeah.
tell you. So I have a couple of interesting stories. Like I said, when I bought my CPA firm, I bought that with another gentleman,
Mm-hmm.
and not a single dime came out of my pocket for that acquisition. And my partner did put up a couple of dollars, but literally, I think it was like $10,000, and that was just to pay for the office furniture, computers, you know, that kind of thing. And then every single dime that went to pay off that acquisition came out
Yeah.
of the proceeds of the business.
So it's a
Couple
seller fund.
years, yeah, a couple years down the road when I bought my partner out, that again never came out of my pocket, never got a loan for that. I made him two payments, and again, that was out of profits from the business itself. And then I have an even more interesting story that
Yes.
proves that it doesn't have to be expensive. So when we ended up selling our pizza pub, we ended up selling that to a former server of ours, and her boyfriend had a fencing company, and
Uh-huh.
great, they do great job with fences, but for whatever reason they just didn't have the cash or the credit
Mm-hmm.
for an acquisition at that point in time. And so what we did is we found them an outside fence job that was happened to be worth about $10,000, but they did that fence job that we found for them, and that money came directly into our pockets as their down payment.
That's very creative.
Yes, that was all my boyfriend. That was his idea, but that just kind of gives you an idea that whatever deal structure you can come up with can be a possibility. And most sellers aren't necessarily looking for a giant pile of cash. They have some
Mm.
other thing that they need at that point in time.
So it's our job as buyers to figure out what that thing that they need and then be able to provide that. Which takes me to, I got two questions for you, right? You mentioned deal sourcing through network. I know a lot of folks that do deal sourcing through brokers. And one thing brokers will normally do is they'll ask for proof of funds sometimes before they even talk to you. What do you, how do you go about that?
Well, that's one of the reasons why I would send you to your network first. I'm not a
Mm.
giant fan of brokers. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud and publicly. But my own personal experience has been that brokers cost way too much money
Mm.
for way too little effort that they put into the deal. Again, that's just my personal experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it's seller financing, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of cash. And if you build that rapport with that business owner, they really want someone that's going to take care of their baby, you know, because probably they've spent lots of blood, sweat, and tears, many
Yeah.
years building that business up. And sure, everybody wants money, but they mostly don't want to see their business baby die or pass
Yeah.
away, you know, within the next few years. And they really need that transition to go smoothly.
So let's talk about that a little bit, right? When you buy a business, because a lot of people talk about buying businesses, nobody's talking about after you buy the business. What are some of the stuff that you do?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, Jabert, you hit it right on the head there, because the deal is the exciting part. How much money you're
Yes.
going to make, or how much money you have to spend, or what a great deal you got, how much profit, you know, you're going to be getting on a regular basis. But it's that transition from the old owner to the new owner that is completely underrepresented in the whole shebang.
Yes.
I mean, it's so important. It needs to be given as much consideration upfront as the deal itself. It needs to
Mhm.
be planned out ahead of time, not as an afterthought, because things can really blow up there. And my biggest tip would be to, especially if you're a new buyer or don't have a ton of business experience, keep everything exactly the same. I mean,
Mm.
in this case, we're talking about buying an already profitable business. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, distress deals is a whole nother topic. But if you're buying a profitable business, why in the world would you change anything?
Mm.
Just keep it steady, Eddie. Learn the ship, learn the
Yeah.
ropes, make the relationships, get to know the clients, the staff, the vendors, and there's no reason to rock the boat because you've already bought a profitable business. So you sure tweak it over time.
Yeah.
Um, make it your own, add things in, subtract things out. But you know, my very first tip would be to keep things exactly the same, at least for the 6 months and maybe even the first year.
Now I love the fact that you said that because no one's talk about that.
I know,
Nobody
no one
talks
ever
about
talks
this.
about it. It's all the deal.
Right? So I like to go where no one else wants to go, which is the transition side. Now I'm curious, you have a community of women that you're helping buying businesses. Tell us some stories, what have they done? What are some things you're proud of that they've done?
Oh, all kinds of things. It's mostly just getting out there and doing it. I
Mm,
don't know what the stats are off the top of my head, but when you're talking about the deals, everybody that's at the deal table, the buyer, the seller, there's probably an attorney, there's probably an accountant. As you mentioned, there might be a broker. Very few of any of those people at the deal table are women. So I'm
mm,
just really encouraging women to get out there and, do the thing. And one of the caveats I like to say is, especially, I'm kind of a tomboy. I mentioned the farming and the motorcycles and that. But as a female acquisition entrepreneur, I would highly
mhm.
encourage women to consider buying a business in a predominantly male field, and
Mm,
then have that designation of a certified female-owned business. And
smart.
that's going to open up all kinds of doors for you as well. So those are kind of the things that I'm preaching.
I love it. I love it. I love that gem because a lot of people don't tap into that. So I'm curious, maybe you can share a bit more. What's your process when it comes to working with women entrepreneurs to help them get that first business under the belt?
Yeah, so again, I kind of have like a four Ks or four areas of knowledge. And the very first is to start with knowing yourself. And not that you
Mm,
don't already know who you are, but I would get really specific and down and dirty in the details and write things down, document them in some fashion. But I would start with your finances because, of course, it's all talking about money. So I would write down, every single dollar that you think you could get your hands on right now, whether
mhm.
it's your savings account or that money stuck under your mattress or your 401k, even credit card balances. And I'm not saying I would suggest you to use all those funds, but if you make a list of all the money you could get a hold of right now if you needed to, that might just give you a big boost of confidence. Like,
Mm,
well, oh, I don't have nearly enough money to buy a business. Well, when you add it up, oh, maybe I've actually got, a couple $100,000 if I include my 401ks and things. So it just kind of gives you that boost. But know
yeah,
your credit score, know, how much time you want to put into a business, know what skills you bring to the
mm,
business, know how you want to work in this new business. Maybe you're, a 20 something and you don't have anything else going on and you want to buy something and work 100 hours a week in it. And, you've got all this energy and maybe connections and maybe not a lot of experience. Or maybe, you've got young kids and you're trying to figure out
yeah,
a way to be the room parent and the Girl Scout leader, so maybe you only have 20 or 30 hours a week to work in the business, and all of those things can happen. You need to be
yeah.
realistic with yourself and take a true inventory of what you can bring to the table and what you want to provide and what you don't want to do on a day-to-day basis as well, and start there.
I love it. And what would you say to somebody, right? They're bought the business, it's going well. Now they're like, huh, maybe I can sell it, or should they have some type of strategy to exit when they buy it? Like, what would you suggest would be, that thing that people should think about?
Yeah, always have an exit plan. I know I forget what the stat is again, but like 70 some percent of business owners right now plan to exit their business within the next 10 years. But like
Yeah.
a teeny tiny fraction of them actually have an exit plan. But in
Mm,
general, I would say you should always be planning for two exits. One is to
okay.
work yourself out of the business so that you're
Okay.
not the day-to-day manager. Things can still run smoothly without you, and then work on exiting the business altogether if that's what you even want. But once you
Yeah.
work your way out, you may not be, needing that sale quite as much.
Okay. Good. Good. And to wrap things up, what is that one small biz tips you would share with any entrepreneurs out there who's like, huh, I have this business. Maybe I can sell it. Maybe I can buy more businesses. What was that one tip you would share with them?
Yeah, this one's kind of a woohoo for a business tip, but whatever it is that you think you want to do, just start putting it out into the universe, putting it out to your network again, and you might be super surprised at who you come across or who speaks up that has that same thing, or even better yet, that the opposite of that thing. If you want to buy, and you start putting that out into the universe, you might be surprised at who comes up and like, hey, I've really been thinking about selling my business. You and I have known each other, worked together, whatever. I like the way you do things. Maybe we could work something out. So just take those first baby steps, no matter what they are, and put that out into the universe and into your actual network.
I love it. How do people get in touch with you if they want to work with you?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm on Twitter too. I get no love from Twitter, but if you're on Twitter, you can give me a follow because I could use the love over there. But yeah, or you can send me an email as well, so I can give that information to you.
I love it. Guys, reach out to Della. As you can see, she is a wealth of knowledge around business acquisition, and she'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks so
for
much.
listening.
Yeah.
Have a good one, guys.
All right. Bye bye.